What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Halo Ranks YouTube channel, where today we're going to be going over the latest Ask 343. This is going to be about the March update that they released. Essentially, they released a video today, sort of delving a bit more into what they announced then, all about the audio, and basically what we can be expecting in terms of soundtrack, new sort of releases, sort of little hints at what's going to be in the game, what's not going to be in the game. Again, you want to find out all the information, watch their video. That's sort of the point of their video. They sort of tell you a bit better than what we will, but we're just going to go over the main stuff. I guess we'll start with, well, what do you want to start with, Bailey?
Well, I mean, kind of the first thing that kind of at least put my ears up when they started going on about it was the kind of return of the classic plasma pistol.
Yeah,
Kind of pretty much off the bat when like the question was basically asking, is it going to sound like the original plasma pistol? And off the bat they said it was a high priority to make it sound like the classic original sound. And I don't think this is just him, saying it just for the sake of saying it, because he went into great detail about how the sound actually was.
yeah,
Like he was going on about how it had a satisfying charge up and like a swelling hum to it, which then led into like the crackling plasma of the plasma pistol, which it sounds really good. I
yeah.
think. I think based upon that, yeah, we have a classic plasma pistol on our hands here, which is very good to hear,
Yeah,
considering
again,
other things don't seem to be as classic. But at
yeah,
least we know the plasma pistol's back.
it's all harking back to what they've said throughout, isn't it? Like, oh, we want to like sort of bring the classic sort of stuff back. But yeah, from how I was describing it, it does sound like you're going to get that satisfying little overcharged sound, what you used to do before you sort of let it go.
Little almost like buzz, and you kind of imagine it like shaking in your hand or whatever, kind of unstable. Yeah, I'm liking the sound of that. I hope to see. I hope we get to see that before release. But
Exactly.
so far, sounds good.
Yeah, it does. But again, just moving on swiftly. Again, all about audio. This one. We have got. Well, they sort of announced what audio was going to be in the game and what has sort of been scrapped in a way. So back in 2018, when we had that first release demo for the game, or like that sort of trailer type thing, you guys know what I'm on about. You'll see it on the screen. They've said that any audio within that has basically just no, that will not be in the game. But everything that they've said that was in the 2019 Discover Hope trailer, where you see Chief floating in space and Broham and all that good stuff, that is the cinematic opening for the game. That has been confirmed now, which you
Yeah,
sort of gathered anyway. So anything
yeah.
that's in that is going to be in the
That,
main
that that
game.
was a very well done like trailer for it not to be in the game,
Yes.
especially considering you kind of had the first person aspects to it as well. But yeah, I'm happy to see that is actually in the game. So any normal person who isn't watching every single advert for this game isn't going to go into it and be like, "Oh, well, who's this Brohammer dude?" Like well, he's not called Brohammer, but who is
We
he?
know.
You get that character development off the bat, because that has done really well, that trailer.
Yeah,
But
certainly
yeah,
is.
as I said, anything that was in that first kind of trailer, they said it was kind of a tech demo for the new engine more so than anything else. So majority of what we saw and what we heard in that is probably not really going to be in the game, which is a bit disappointing. But there wasn't too much in there.
No, no, not
To be
really.
fair,
It was just
it was mostly just a bit of soundtrack, which we've already
it
heard,
was fairly generic sort of
and
stuff as well, wasn't it? Like there was
yeah,
nothing too
it's your
sort of
generic,
specific.
is your generic kind of hype building stuff. But yeah, good to see that Discover Hope trailer is being used in the actual game. Um,
Yeah, feel free. You want to chat about the adaptive
uh,
side?
I think, yeah, I think kind of another thing they were going on about is the soundtrack and how it was actually going to perform in game.
Yeah,
Um, and they're basically kind of keyword was adaptive music, adaptive soundtrack, and they pretty much said absolutely this game is going to have, from what sounds like, a very adaptive kind of free flowing soundtrack that's going to actually respond to what the player is doing, what the player's behavior is, and they even kind of made a point of they've got a system in place trying to detect like what the player's intending to do as well, which
Yeah.
I think is quite good because that can kind of lead to some good build up situations
Yeah, so
um,
they're sort of tracking sort
before.
of the player's behavior in a sense, aren't they? But depending on what
Yeah,
you're doing, depends on what music is going to be coming out. They've also sort of highlighted the amount of variables that there's going to be, haven't they? Like
yeah.
this is
Uh,
very dynamic from what
it
they've
sounds
said.
like it sounds like even down to like what gun you're currently carrying, what's your secondary gun. It sounds like even all of that kind of stuff seems like it's going to have an effect on what the soundtrack is doing.
Yeah. Another thing they
And
did mention, story progress is going to be affecting it, which I feel like you sort of gathered anyway. Like the music's going to change
yeah,
depending on sort of what aspect of the story you're in, whether you're
but
in a bad situation or good, so on.
yeah, but that's another good thing because like if at the start you're down and you're like everything's gone to hell, the soundtrack kind of reflects that. But then kind of as the game goes on, the hope builds up. However the game flows, it'll respond to what is currently happening.
Yeah. Carrying on with audio within the gameplay itself, there's situational audio. Like we sort of knew this anyway because we read through the update at the end of last month. But they sort of went a little bit more in depth about that. How you can have three different sort of they sort of focus on three different sort of footsteps, don't they? In the sense that
Yeah,
you've got
so
your own, the enemy, which I think is the loudest they said, and then your ally is going to be slightly quieter, so you can hear it a little bit easier.
so they've said like they kind of said like your allies' footsteps are going to be distinct from the enemy, so you're not going to hear, which I think is quite a common issue on like Halo Reach. You hear like a teammate running behind you, and you think someone's running up behind you about to assassinate you and something.
Yeah,
But it sounds like they've first of all quietened that down, so it's less likely to kind of make you immediately turn around in panic. And second of all, it's a different sound, so after a bit of experience playing the game, you're gonna know, oh, that's a friend behind me. That's fine. And then versus someone really loud running up behind you who's about to stab you in the back.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
they also went on about how objectives like capture the flag have like a 3D audio effect, which basically,
Yeah,
from what I gather, is basically wherever the objective is in relation to you, you will hear it in that direction now,
I
rather than
presume
just kind of
so.
a general ambient hum or something or whatever the objective sound does, like the bomb ticking or whatever. Um, it'll actually kind of if it's on your left, it'll be on your left. If it's behind you, it'll be behind you. Which was another thing they were saying, like to just help kind of situational awareness. They seem to be focusing hard on that with the multiplayer, which is a good thing to kind of see. I don't see anything bad about them doing that, to be honest.
No, it sounds like quite a cool little detail. I suppose that opens up sort of the opportunity for almost like a sort of picturing like a hardcore game mode. Because obviously, anytime you play multiplayer, things like capture the flag, sort of assault, whatever, you can see where the bomb is on the map. There's a big marker. Like you just look around and you'll see it. So I wonder whether them
Yeah,
incorporating something like this is almost opening up possibilities for that sort of gameplay potentially.
possibly. You could even potentially kind of be used to, because the audio is more of a focus on it. You don't need a massive indicator on your screen indicating exactly where the bomb is. It can be a bit more subtle. It can be a bit less in your way.
Yeah, add a bit of realism to the game, even though it is a
Yeah.
futuristic sci-fi shooter. But you know what I mean?
Um, yeah, kind of moving on from that as well, but sticking with multiplayer, they mentioned the kind of music in the multiplayer, they kind of developed on it a bit more than what they said in the Inside Infinite announcement. Where the Inside Infinite announcement kind of came across as no music at all in multiplayer, but they've kind of said no, that's not really the case. It's going to be in the multiplayer still. There's still going to be music in the multiplayer, but more so pre-game, post-game, kind of tail ends of the game,
Yeah,
and during particular intense situations, like you're about to get the final game-winning kill or something like that.
yeah.
Um,
So I presume that'll. become incorporated when you get situations like I think Halo 4 and maybe Halo 5, I don't know, not played it in a while, where you're close to winning, like the announcer will sort of
Yeah,
say, "Oh, look,
they do it in Reach as well. To be fair, and I think
yeah,
yeah,
you
I think that's definitely the right way to go. I think they just didn't explain it that clearly in the um, Inside Infinite
no,
announcement. But yeah, I'm definitely happy with that.
yeah, it's definitely better off getting some clarification on that." As well as this, again, we're big on multiplayer theme going on right now. A lot of the audio within it is going to be additive. So essentially, uh, the best way to describe this is like with a vehicle. So you've got a warthog and it's getting more damaged as obviously the game's going on. You're going to have added audio incorporated within it. So like you'll have like steam or like sparks or like if bits are on fire. And one thing that was really interesting that they did say, which we did pick up on, they said about tires popping on a warthog, which we've never had before. So you could have poppable tires on an actual warthog. I mean, that's gonna change the game for sure, isn't it?
Yeah, well now when you're shooting at like a warthog or whatever, now you're not only just you used to be the priority target's just the gunner or the driver. You try and shoot the
Yeah,
person who's actually in it, but now you've got other thing factors kind of. Oh, if I shoot with the tires, I can pop his tires, and then he's going to have less control.
yeah, it adds
And
more
it
tact to
definitely
it.
seems it definitely seems like a general kind of theme, like focused fire on particular parts on vehicles seems to be quite a key part. Like they kind of mentioned how because the vehicles have like this kind of specific breaking points where if it takes damage at this point, it will break at this point.
Yeah,
Um, it kind of focusing fire on particular parts of the vehicle seems to be a lot more key now. It's not just you've had this in the past with like the say like the Scorpion tank where you've got the vent on the back, same with the Wraith and all that.
yeah.
But it seems like now you can shoot off armor panels and stuff, and then the vehicle is then permanently weaker from that point on,
Mm. I also like the
which
fact,
is
sorry, what they said about Doomsday Alarm. I think that's quite cool. So if you're the
oh yeah
driver of one of these vehicles and shit's going down, you know when to get out now, which
yeah
wasn't
it,
always easy to gauge.
it kind of seems to be if you get below a certain amount of health, the vehicle's going to kind of self destruct after a while, which definitely I think will result in some funny moments as well. Kind of the emergency kind of bailing out, the driver bails out of the warthog, but the gunner stays on or something like that. I think that'd be quite funny to see.
Yeah. Um, Sort of bleeding on from the multiplayer, sort of moving on a little bit. They've talked about specific weapons that they've sort of redesigned recently, or sort of reworked, I suppose. Those being the Mangler and the Ravager, so our new brute weapons that we saw again in the last update. Well, we knew about the Mangler, but you know what I mean.
Well,
They're not going to completely change. They're just going to get tweaked, essentially, aren't they?
yeah, they kind of said like the footage that we saw on the 2020 gameplay. They said they have gone back on that. They have kind of redesigned and tweaked them a little bit. They're not going to be too much different, but they're going to be improved,
Yeah.
which is nice to see because so far we haven't really seen much improvement from what we saw in that gameplay. Like we haven't kind of gone
No,
back and
we've
seen everything and that was in that again. We've kind of been mostly stuck with images and
yeah, a
audio
couple of
files.
screenshots, things like that.
But it sounds like they have kind of gone back and taken some feedback and done what they can with what they've got. I think moving on from that as well, which quite a big one. It sounds like there might be some sort of firefight voices, or very at least some sort of voice over like
Yeah.
some player voice system for the multiplayer.
Well, there's something when he was asked the question, I forget which bloke it was, but they essentially said that there's not going to be any like custom announcers or anything. We'll get onto that in a minute. But they also said they're very into sort of audio customization, making it all very feel sort of very personal to the player. When it came to Firefight Voices and sort of that sort of thing, um, all they said was that things are in the works. Now, again, that brings up the whole question of, oh, is there going to be firefight in the game? Is that the third game mode? Stuff like that. But you've got to think that out of everything that there is that they've done previously, anyway, that's the most likely thing to come out of it.
Yeah, yeah. You'd imagine if there's going to be anything. that they've kind of done in the past that they're going to bring back, it's probably going to be Firefight.
Yeah, we'd hope so anyway.
Um, unless it's some brand new mode, but I don't think 343 have the confidence to do that after
No,
Warzone.
no, you'd be surprised, wouldn't you?
Um,
But yeah,
but yeah,
that's one of them. You're gonna find out later down the line. But you've got to get your rumor mill going, whether you think Firefight will be in there or not.
yeah,
But
get the mind churning a bit,
yeah.
kind of seeing if there's other little snippets of information coming up here and there.
Anyway, as we mentioned, no custom announcers. Jeff is gonna be there though. Big old Jeff Steitzer. The
Quite frankly,
gone.
don't need any other announcers. If
No.
he's about, I don't care about any other announcers.
For
That
those of you that,
man is a
yeah,
legend.
just if you don't know, he is the multiplayer announcer. Like he does your double kill, triple kill, all that. You'd know it if
Yeah,
you've played.
he done all the previous Halos and he's back for this one, and it's good to see.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you wouldn't want anybody else trying to usher in a new era, would you? Like you'd want him to be
No,
the voice. Um,
you think classic Halo multiplayer, you think of that man's voice.
absolutely. Another good thing, just a little, mainly good for us, honestly. All the music's, they reckon it's going to be DMCA free, which is thumbs up from us.
Basically means we can put it in a video and not get into trouble for it,
Yeah,
which is very nice to hear.
so that's very handy.
The only, I guess, downside to that is that they've said probably not going to get any more of the soundtrack until the game releases. So we're
No.
kind of stuck with the free that we've been given. Their kind of main reasoning for that was they didn't really want to spoil any of the main story moments in the game
Yeah.
because obviously the soundtracks are going to be playing for particular key story moments.
Again,
And
that's
also
completely
they're also
understandable.
they said they're like the soundtrack's going to be enriched by the gameplay, which once again, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, whenever you think of the Halo soundtrack, you don't just think of the soundtrack. You think of what you were doing when that was playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the start to the Covenant in Halo 3.
Yeah.
You know,
Or the final Warthog run
the
or whatever.
soundtrack with that and actually playing that kind of go hand in hand. I feel.
Oh yeah, they enhance each other tenfold. So you can understand the
Yeah,
decision to not release anymore.
they
Um,
they build on top of each other.
definitely. It's slightly disappointing that we won't get anything else until the fall now, but realistically, if it's gonna take anything away from the game hearing it beforehand, I think most people would agree that just keep it in the vault. We'll have it when the game comes out.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy to wait for it. If it's anything as good as what we've already heard, it's worth the wait. But yeah, I just hope I just hope it is. I hope they're not holding it back because it's bad. I hope they're just holding it back because it's going to be boosted by all these other factors.
Yeah, so far they've given us nothing to go off that is going to be bad. Like from the three we've heard have been brilliant. I mean, we made a video on them, so watch that one after you've watched this one. Um, but speaking of things we have heard, um, the battle rifle, they went a little bit more in depth on that. Obviously, we've heard the little audio cue from the last month's update. Turns out it's been inspired by the Halo 2 battle rifle. No surprises there. It sounded very similar, as we could all sort of tell.
It visually as well, it's very similar. It's
Yeah,
pretty much just a carbon copy of the original, which is
it's not a bad
good. It
thing.
is just a straight up good thing, to be honest. I don't think there's anything you could really complain about that.
No, but I
Um,
was amazed at how in depth they went to make the audio for it. Like they combined both FN Scar and an FN N240B submachine gun. Basically two guns for one gun.
bit of a mouthful that second
Yeah,
one.
that was a big mouthful, but you know, it's a gun. Two guns for one gun. It's quite impressive. They
Yeah,
also
it's
used
kind of
that punctured air canister they were saying, didn't they, for like some sort of like sonic
yeah. They were
boom
kind
effect.
of something to do with like apparently the air canister gives off a sonic boom because of how when it's punctured the hole rips open and makes a sonic crack. Wh- which is an interesting way of doing it. And I mean, as I heard, it does sound good. Like it's clearly worked.
Yeah,
But and then like he was saying like there's not like a particular thing either for like the tails of the sound as well. Like it kind of sounds like they've just kind of gotten little bits of everything. They've kind of blended everything together to make one unique sound, which is good to hear. Like as cool as it is, like they're using real firearms for the sound effects. I don't want this firearm to sound like you're just shooting a generic AR. You just I don't want this gun to feel like I'm shooting a Scar.
No, no, you want that
But
sort of unique
but I
feel, don't
also
you?
want it. But I also want it to feel like a firearm.
Oh
And
yeah,
it
you
sounds like, from what I've heard and from how they've described it, yeah, that they
they
seem to have gotten that.
they sound meaty, don't they? That's sort of what we can
Yeah,
go off. The weapons sound meaty, which
they,
again
they
is not a
sound they
bad thing.
sound real.
Yeah, there's actual weight behind every sort of shot, which is good. But to be fair, that sort of wraps it up for this update. Any sort of concluding thoughts, Bailey? Like, I think it's
No,
pretty
I
good
think
dump.
that's all the key points we kind of got to go on there. Everything else they kind of said in the video was kind of more along the lines of, um, like, oh, what did you find difficult and all that, and
Yeah, that's
it's
not.
cool. It's cool. It's nice to hear, but in terms of what actually is affecting Halo, yeah, it doesn't have much effect on. Yeah, it's not actually much information on what is going on with Infinite.
No. Well, I guess we'll leave that there then. Thank you guys ever so much for watching. Like, subscribe, all that rubbish. You know what you're doing. You're on YouTube. Again, I haven't got to repeat myself doing this. Let us know what you think of the update and what they've sort of revealed. Obviously, a lot of new information came out, so hopefully you'll have some thoughts on it. But yeah, we will see you guys in the next one very soon.
See you guys later.